everyone. How's everyone? Well, since we're on holidays and I'm pretty much tired of watching TikTok videos, I thought I put together a bit of another video as a walkthrough, and I want to now look at structuring the essay that you were supposed to write for your formative assessment. So the question was, how does the ending of 1984 convey that Winston is the last man? So I wrote the essay, and it was admittedly longer than the mini essay I required you to write. But still, I think it's quite important at this stage for us to consolidate our understanding of the content and also continue to develop our skills in essay writing. So, considering 1984 is such a multifaceted text, and there's so many boxes that we need to tick in order for us to do well in this particular essay for text and human experiences, I thought I'd put together a bit of a walkthrough. So, what is one way of tackling this task? Well, one way would be to collect the notes that we have been writing in class, look at particularly notes that link to context first and to aspects of the human experience. Now, your notes should be extensive. They should come from your teacher, from the discussions that we had in class, from all the PowerPoints that were shared, and from your own research from the internet. There's so much stuff out there in 1984. It's really hard to actually figure out what to use and what not to use, and what you will be able to realistically remember and what you will not be able to remember. So I thought I'd point out that the notes should be about the social and historical context, always purpose in writing 1984, and also the genre and its tropes and characteristics. Now, there are multiple genres that we could explore, and we have spoken about dystopia, but I also put together another video on the scientific romance, so I encourage you to watch it. It's on YouTube as well, so make sure you watch that before you tackle the essay. Now, it's important to understand that all these elements will act as building blocks for your essay. Now, what is the second step? Obviously, go over your notes and everything else that I have said. Critical commentaries are particularly important, and also a white table. Now, the white table that we created, that is the what, the aspect of the human experience that's exploring the text. The H that stands for the how, which is the quote and your technique, and the Y, which is the analysis of the quote and the technique. And the link back to the aspect of the human experience is particularly important. You need to reread it and start memorizing quotes in preparation for your upcoming HSE assessments. Now, it is important that you start memorizing things now, because you just studied the course, and it will save you time later when the content becomes so huge. It will be really hard to track back and say, oh, I didn't memorize this, I didn't remember this, I don't remember this, and you start becoming overwhelmed. So it's very important that you take small steps and that you put in sufficient time now that will reap its rewards later down the track. Now, language analysis is a must, but it's not all that there is to producing a top response. I want you to clearly remember this. We are not looking for a shopping list of your techniques and your quotes and your interpretation of those techniques and how the techniques have been used to represent an idea. What we're looking for is the highly conceptual response. We're talking about band 6 here, of course. That is a highly conceptual response that clearly aligns itself with that essay question. So you need to be responding to that essay question, and it needs to be highly conceptual and also be quite specific in terms of the analysis and the representation. So all those key features need to be there for you to do really well in text and human experiences. All right, now you need to organize your notes in a document. So this is what I did. I looked at my notes and the notes that I could link to the question, and I just wrote them all down. I'm going to show you the document in a minute. Now the question asked for the last man, so the notes that I had, I obviously tried to link them to the last man. I have contextual links, and I have labeled those in capital letters. I have links to representation, character setting, themes and style, the genre, dystopian genre, and scientific romance. And I've also got links to the question and have labeled that as humanity, because it is a very broad question. This question is pretty much it's all about just being the last man. So is he really the last man? What is the meaning of the last man? How does he represent what we stand for as human beings? Okay, they should be throughout your response. By the way, if you want your response to be a top response, you need to have those links, clear, distinct links to the question. Obviously, I have notes on plot, quotations, and analysis, and that is, I've drawn many of those strictly straight from our wide table, and I have used red font in mine. Okay, so here is our essay plan. As you might remember, we wrote this on the board. Obviously that was mine, but anyway, you may have a different one, and that's okay, but I've used mine as a starting point to write my essay. So my stance is, yes, Winston is the last man. Why? Because he embodies not just the political dissident, but the struggle to survive in an oppressive regime while maintaining all that makes him human, all that makes us human. Now, my first driving idea would be that the oppressive society in Oceania stifles individual development and is done through mind control, information control, and obliteration of memories. Now, I particularly want to focus on surveillance at some point during that paragraph. That's my first paragraph, by the way, because it links directly to my next point, which is, the one of the key events in 1984, the writing of his diary. Now, I'm linking, my second point is the subversive nature of the use of language and lovemaking cannot be sustained in this society. Now, I'm saying that humans inherit a rationality. That is, we are, as human beings, we are rational beings, but we also feeling beings. So we're able to connect with our feelings, with our emotions, and also with our thinking processes. So language is a manifestation of our rationality, and lovemaking, it's really a strong manifestation of our feelings, of course. Okay, not the only one, but within the constraints of 1984, we want to talk about that a little bit there. Now, that also links to my next point, which is the idea of love and affection in relationships and trusting others. Now, they are banned by the party, and of course can be a reason for torture and annihilation. Now, human emotions are suppressed because they oppose the dominant ideology. So both my point 2 and 3, really, I'm talking about feelings and emotions and language. Okay, and how those characteristics as human beings cannot be sustained within the oppressive society of Oceania. Okay, so I'm just keeping an eye on the time because I'm given only 15 minutes in these videos, so I just don't want to go over it, and I will have to probably make a second one in order for you to see the full development of my essay. Okay, so I'm going now to step number 5, which is organize your ideas logically and link them to your lines of argument. So my lines of argument are these 3 big ones, okay? And This is the part that I have my document, so I'm gonna show you my document, but I got my notes, and then my second step was basically to just organize them logically, and I had already labeled them. So it was very important for me to do that organization. So I'm gonna see if I can open it here. Okay. All right, let's see. So hope you can see that. Okay, so I got my lines of argument there, and I got a few notes that I have collected. So the first one has to do with always purpose, and because it's so generic and so broad, I thought I write this right at the beginning of my essay, because his concern really, his modern anxiety really, is that humanity will not be able to survive the rise of totalitarian governments. Okay, so that's what he explores in 1984 through the main character, of course. Now, generic context. I got some notes on context and genre, and I thought I'll label them as generic because basically I could use them somewhere, perhaps right at the beginning of my essay, perhaps right at the end, or somewhere in between. They're most likely to be used at the beginning or end when we want to sound very broad and, just pave the path for, the more specific information that I want to talk about. Okay. In fact, some of these I didn't even, I don't think I included that, for example. Some of these I didn't even include in my essay, and that is okay. You may want to leave some of your notes out, okay, because it will depend on what sort of question you're asked for your essay. Okay, sorry, I'm keeping an eye on the time. Okay, so in terms of context, setting, and theme, if it cuts off, I'll start again from the moment it was cut off, okay, because I can't really see now the timer. So anyway, okay, so context, setting, and theme. I labeled this small paragraph context, setting, and theme because it is about how the setting is being developed right at the start, how the world of 1984 is effectively built, okay, and how total conformity is expected by Big Brother and his expectations through widespread fear and manipulation. Okay, then the next little bit of notes were about context again, narrative, and setting. Now, why are these notes important? Because you must demonstrate you understand the context, and the context has strong bearing on the ideas in 1984 and how the representation's been shaped and why. Okay, so the pessimist, okay, so this talks a little bit about, again, the building of the context, how the setting's been built by the composer, and there's a little bit about Winston, even how he's being represented, how his physical description's being represented as well, and there's a little bit about the setting there as well and linked to humanity. Now, when I say humanity, I mean the keywords in my essay question. Okay, so that has historical links to the allusion of to Soviet Russia, okay, and the notion of being vaporized. Okay, I got a couple more notes here on context, oppression and themes, and memories. Okay, so the constant control, and there's an explanation about the importance of memory and knowledge of truth and the past. And these notes in red are those that I pretty much pull out from our white table. Okay, so they're there, and that has to do with the symbol of the glass paperweight. Okay, now the next paragraph is about, again, context, themes, memories, character, or could be character as well, because it's talking about Winston and the link to humanity.